Are you tired of your drums sounding like the boxes that they were shipped in during playback? Well, let's fix that. A great recording starts with a great sounding instrument. It's the first part of the chain. It's also good to know that what our ears hear is completely different than what the mic hears. So tuning is a good start. You'll kind of get it in the ballpark, but then it's a good idea to check your work by actually recording it, listening back, seeing what you got, making adjustments from there. Sometimes it sounds good to your ear, bad on tape. Sometimes it sounds bad to your ear, great on tape. Sometimes it sounds bad to your ear and bad on tape, but it sounds great in a mix. So it's a good idea to check what it actually sounds like, even if it sounds good, to check it in the mix with the song that you're working with. Because if you have to do it all over again after you've tracked this amazing, drum performance, that'd be a little frustrating. So it's a good idea to check all scenarios before you actually track your song. It'll save you a lot of time and heartache. So we're gonna go over 5 different areas to consider outside of shell material and shell thickness that'll have a massive impact on the sound that you can expect to get from your drums. The 5 areas are the bearing edge, hoops and hardware, the drum heads, the mounting system, and last but not least, tuning. First up, bearing edges. We've got the 45 degree, lots of warmth, attack, and a long sustain. Then the 45 degree dual cut, warmth, attack, and controlled sustain. 45 degree rounded, attack, projection, and punch. 60 degree bearing edge, attack, punch, and a very quick decay. And then the fully rounded bearing edge, great low end, punch, and subdued sustain. Next up, hoops. So when it comes to hoops, there are a ton of different options. I personally love the triple flange 1.6 millimeter. They're a little lighter than the common found 2.3 millimeters. I went into an accent and I don't know where it came from, but let's just move on. So the 2.3 millimeter hoop is the common one from today. It focuses the note just a little bit more, doesn't allow it to breathe as much as a 1.6 millimeter. I go for the 1.6 millimeters because it allows it to breathe a little bit more and resonate, and I love it for the studio. So actually sticking with flange hoops, you have the triple flange, double flange, single flange, and no flange. And just consider this, the lighter the hoop, the more the drum is allowed to breathe and resonate. So if you're looking for maximum resonance, a no flange hoop is going to be your go-to. Keep in mind they're going to need the clips, and they are something that you're going to have to kind of work around. Even though it's just a little tiny guy there just clipping on, kind of like a bass drum, it can be a little distracting at first, but then you got to get used to it. So looking for resonance, single flange or no flange through double flange, and if you're cool with the triple flange, 1.6 millimeter is phenomenal. Going in the opposite direction would be the die-cast hoops and the wood hoops. So die-cast hoops focus the note quite a bit. They restrict any kind of movement from the drum head. Tuning can be a little bit of a thing. Learning how to do going from triple flange to a die-cast hoop, it's different. Little tiny increments make a big difference. So just keep that in mind. And if you really want to focus your note, I would go for a wood hoop. There's that accent, I don't know where it's coming from. So go for a wood hoop. It's going to really focus and it's going to make your drum project like crazy. So there you go. The other part of this would be hardware. So it has nothing to do with hoops, but I did group these into the same deal. So the hardware that's attached to the drum, the weight of the hardware and how much, if you have the long lugs or heavier lugs, it does tend to add a little less resonance to your drum. Add a little less, it's weird. Yeah, focus on that for a second. So anyway, with the exception, it's kind of an odd thing that adding weight to hardware does to a drum. It's a weird thing. Yamaha did this thing where they added weight to the lugs inside the bass drum, and it brought the low end out It focused it and it made it a lot lower. So that's an interesting thing. Maybe we can do that and try that with some toms and see what happens. That would be in a later video. So, okay, so the next part that we're gonna talk about would be the drum heads. So when it comes to drum heads, the general rule, keep this short and sweet, single ply, resonance, two ply, attack. A lot of people like to combo platter the deal and put two ply on top, single ply on bottom. It gives them the attack and resonance at the same time. It focuses the resonance a little bit because of the two ply on top, but there you go. That's a great combo. It's worked for thousands of musicians around the world, and it works great for, especially for like a rock sound. If you're into like a jazzier sound or even just a bigger, airier sound with warmth, two ply top and bottom, especially if you go coated. But if you happen to want a little bit more attack and you still want to go with single ply clear is going to be your go-to. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next subject, which would be the mounting hardware. Mounting hardware. Okay, so there are three different types of situations here. You can mount the hardware directly to the shell, and there's pros and cons there. Suspension systems, which attach to the tension rods, which eliminates any kind of tension on the shell, allowing the drum to breathe and resonate more. And then there's the time-honored tradition of placing your tom on a snare stand. Let's go over all three of these. So back to the mounting the hardware directly to the shell. That's damaging to the drum, not good. And it causes tension on the shell, and it can cause the shell to go out of round. There are, however, companies now that have found the spot to place that hardware that isn't nearly as damaging as, say, in the 80s or 70s when they were just, let's just put it here. They've actually figured out, okay, it's best to put it here. And so you barely notice any reduction in resonance, and it doesn't damage the shell. So beautiful. Suspension systems attach, like I said, to the tension rods. And there's so many different companies out there doing this now, and so many different types where they attach to, maybe like Pearl, I believe, attaches to the top and bottom, and it holds it really well. I forgot the name of it. Anyway, it's great. There's a rims mount, the original. Tama has it where it's going directly through the hoop, which is pretty fantastic. Then there's the snare stand. Let's go over that. A lot of people think that it's just instantly going to kill all the resonance. Not true, unless you're using the heavy duty, cranking it down with nothing in between the hoop and the basket. So with those three things in mind, if you use a lighter stand that's offset, where the basket is offset, and you place rubber, feet or whatever, not feet, but a place for the drum to make contact with the stand. So it's actually sitting on rubber, and I'm talking about that thick rubber that you find on practice pads. It works. It works great. Check it out. It's where your drum is going to sound actually even better than it does with a suspension system. Totally possible. So check that out. Next subject is tuning. Bring these down to finger tight. So fast I can do this. All right, so I'm working with this key here that actually, can you see that top part? Makes it to where it's easy to do finger tight, because I have these Atlas mounts on here. It makes it difficult to actually get in there and do the finger tight thing. And that's how I like to start a tuning session. is getting everything finger tight, and this key allows me to do that. But if you don't have a key like this, you just use your fingers, and hopefully you don't have something like that. But if you do, just get it snug, but not start actually tuning. So here we go. This is what I do for any recording session, which I'm actually doing today, right after this. I've got a rock tune that I'm working on, and I want to go with some resonance, but keep it low. So that's what I'm going to go for, and we'll see if I can get there. The way I do it is I start on the left lug to my left, your right, so it's this one, and I do that just so I have a starting point and know where to end. So if I start here, I usually do a star pattern, and I start with small increments. I usually start with quarter turns and then go up diagonally. Here you go, and then that's when the star pattern starts. I don't know if it's actually technically a star, but it kind of looks like one. And a quarter turn, then go up and diagonal, and that's one turn. So I start here again, but I want to check to see where we're at with just the quarter turn, because it might be enough. And these two sound a little low, so I'm going to just give it a little tweak and see where we're at. Maybe a little low here too. It's still a little low. Beautiful. That might be enough. That actually might be perfect. So we'll see what it sounds like recorded. Then I do the opposite side. Some people like to tune their drums, tune tops to one pitch, and then the resonant side, they like to tune higher by a major third. And some people choose a perfect fourth. And you can use a pitch pipe if you want to do those type of things, or a keyboard, but you have to get your music theory on. I prefer to tune to the same pitch. It's just something I've done for most of my life, but there are times when I do use the major third or perfect fourth. It just sounds incredible, especially if you're in a different type of room that you've never been in, and your drums normally sound good in your room, and then you take them to a club or concert venue or whatever, and all of a sudden there's no life in it, and so you wonder what is going on. It's the tuning. And so start experimenting there, because sometimes when you tune these guys up, what it will do is do it like a pitch bend, and it actually focuses the note a little bit too, which is kind of nice, especially live, so that drums aren't resonating all over the place. So there are situations where I do that, but in the studio I really prefer the both the batter and resonant side to be tuned to the same pitch, which is what I'm going to do right now. So let's try that again. I'm going to do the finger tight thing. And then hopefully tune this to the same pitch just as easily as I did the first time. Diagonal, and then over here for the star pattern, diagonal. That sounds a little higher. These two sound a little high. I'm going to take them down just a little bit. Let's see, and then what I do is I mute one side and tap the other to hear the note. That's the resonant side. And that is the batter side. So I think the batter, or the resonant side, excuse me, is higher. And just starting here. Let's see, just tiny bits. Okay, I'm gonna call that close enough. Yeah. Now, we want to check what it sounds like after it's been recorded, because that's the only way we're gonna know if it's okay. All right, so what'd you think? I think it turned out pretty good. I really actually enjoyed the way it blended with the other toms, and the other toms are tuned the same way, same pitch, top and bottom, and every drum I have every tom I have, they all have coated ambassadors on tops and bottoms, and it just, to me, it sounds magical. Next week, I'm going to be going over how to mic your toms with a Sennheiser 421. Actually, all my toms. I have a 13, 15, 18 setup, and Sennheiser 421s on all of them. Anyway, thank you again for being here. Much appreciated, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye.